Peace, beautiful beings, and welcome back to Ascension Books and Conversations. My name is Cherise, and I am doing this book reading of the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ that we have been reading together once a week. I'm not going to sit here and act like I am great at time, and I am definitely using YouTube to aid in my consistency when it comes to sharing the knowledge that I've been given and just sharing things that I love to partake in. And so I am doing my best to stay consistent every week. And today is Indigenous Peoples Day. So happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Shout out to all my Indigenous people. And I hope that you found rest and peace and some just time to reflect on your ancestry, your culture, and just had time to connect with your ancestors, your guides today. And if not, then I just pray that you found some form of peace and rest throughout the day today, even if you did or did not have to go to work. So yeah, we are continuing reading the Aquarian Gospel. And as always, I'll leave in the description box below the book itself so that you can read it on your own time. It is just a free PDF. Or if you need to catch up, start from the beginning, want to go back to a chapter, they're always going to be in the description box below for you. I did start doing those chapters, so I'm going to continue to stay consistent in that as we move forward to make it easier for you. So we ended the story with Jesus now heading to Persia. And so we are on chapter 38. If you want to go ahead and click on that PDF, or if you have the book in hand, please go ahead and grab that for yourself and go ahead and turn to chapter 38, where we will begin our reading. Let's see. So we're in section 8 now. Section 8 is called Chet. I feel like it's not pronounced these ways, but it's okay. Okay. Life and works of Jesus in Persia. So Jesus crosses Persia, teaches and heeds in many places. Their Magian priests need him as he nears Persepolis. Caspar and 2 other Persian masters meet him in Persepolis. The 7 masters sit in silence 7 days. Hold on 1 second, because I definitely need to add some lighting in here for myself to read it. 1 second. On a bunch of pillows, y'all. Trying to be at eye level, trying to see you, see me, see you. Here we go. Okay, chapter 38. 24 years of age was Jesus when he entered Persia on his homeward way. In many a hamlet, town, and neighborhood, he paused a while and taught and healed. The priests and ruling classes did not welcome him, because he censured them for cruelty to those of low estate. The common people followed him in throngs. At times the chiefs made bold to try to hinder him, forbidding him to teach or heal the sick. But he regarded not their angry threats. He taught and healed the sick. In time he reached Persepolis, the city where the kings of Persia were entombed, the city of the learned Magi, Hor and Lun and Myrrh, the 3 wise men, who 24 years before had seen the star of promise rise above Jerusalem, and who had journeyed to the west to find the newborn king, and were the first to honor Jesus as the master of the age, and gave him gifts of gold, gum-thus, and myrrh. These magi, sorry, I went to scroll and it just exited. Hold on 1 second. who 420 years before had seen the star of promise rise above Jerusalem, and who had journeyed to the west to find the newborn king, and were the first to honor Jesus as the master of the age, and gave him gifts of gold, gumthus, and myrrh. These magi knew, by ways that masters always know, when Jesus neared Persepolis, and then they girt themselves and went to meet him on the way. And when they met, a light, much brighter than the light of day, surrounded them. And men who saw the four stand in the way declared they were transfigured, seeming more like gods than men. Now, Hor and Loon were aged men, and Jesus placed them on his beast to ride into Persepolis, whilst he and Myrrh led on the way. And when they reached the Magi's home, they all rejoiced. And Jesus told the thrilling story of his life. And Hor and Lun and Myrrh spoke not. They only looked to heaven, and in their hearts praised God. 3 wise men from the north were in Persepolis, and they were Caspar, Zara, and Melzon. And Caspar was the wisest master of the Magian land. These 3 were at the home of Hor and Lun and Myrrh when Jesus came. For 7 days these 7 men spoke not. They sat in silence in the council hall, in close communion with the silent brotherhood. They sought for light, for revelation, and for power. The laws and precepts of the coming age required all the wisdom of the masters of the world. Chapter 38. So just briefly going to share that in the description below, I put the Wikipedia link for Persepolis if you're someone like me who gets curious about where exactly this is taking place at the time. And so at this time, Persepolis was an ancient empire that was in Iran. And based off of what I had read, it states that Alexander the Great's army was part of the destruction of that area. Not sure why, not sure what happened, but that's why it's not as known or modern today, and why some of their sites are not present. But yeah, definitely look into the Wikipedia if you want to learn more about that. But yeah, just a brief summary is that these are the 3 wise men that Jesus had met when he was a baby, and they brought him the gifts. And we all know that story pretty well. I mean, those of us who are from Christian backgrounds know of Jesus' story and the 3 wise men who came to him. And so in this chapter, Jesus actually found his way back at the age of 24 into the space and communion of these 3 wise men alongside 3 other wise Magians of that land. And 7 is a very spiritual number. And so for them to be in this space of having 7 men and being in complete silence during, they said they were in silence for 7 days. So, 7 is always something in the New Testament. Jesus says we should forgive our brothers and sisters 70 times 7 times. So we know that number is very, very much spiritual, very much in tune with when you are tuning into spirituality, source, God. And so that's how they fasted from the wisdom. I mean, not from the wisdom, but they tapped into their wisdom by fasting from any outside energies, any outside conversations. And they sought for light, for revelation and power. They knew that the laws and the precepts that were for the coming age, the things that they knew that they wanted to share and preach about, and Jesus, because they weren't preachers, but Jesus really wanted to share the wisdom in a way that it would ripple into our lives moving forward, the age moving forward, this age of Aquarius, or at that time, age of Pisces. Yeah, move on to chapter 39 before I start rambling. Jesus attends a feast in Persepolis, speaks to the people, reviewing the Magian philosophy, explains the origin of evil, spends the night in prayer. A feast in honor of the Magian god was being held, and many men were gathered in Persepolis. And on the great day of the feast, the ruling Magian master said, "Within these sacred walls is liberty. Whoever wills to speak may speak." And Jesus, standing in the midst of all the people, said, "My brothers, sisters, children of our Father God, most blessed are you among the sons of men today, because you have such just conceptions of the Holy One and man. Your purity in worship and in life is pleasing unto God, and to your master Zarathustra praise is due. Well, say you all, there is one God from whose great being there came forth the seven spirits that created heaven and earth. And manifest unto the sons of men are these great spirits in the sun and moon and stars. But in your sacred books we read that two among these seven are of superior strength, that one of these created all the good, the other one created all that evil is. I pray you, honored masters, tell me how that evil can be born of that which is all good." Amagus rose and said, "If you will answer me, your problem will be solved. We all do recognize the fact that evil is. Whatever is, must have a cause. If God, the One, made not this evil, then where is the God who did?" Oh, love that. And Jesus said, "Whatever God, the One, has made is good. And like the great first cause, the seven spirits all are good. And everything that comes from their creative hands is good. Now, all created things have colors, tones and forms their own. But certain tones, though good and pure themselves, when mixed, produce inharmonies, discordant tones. And certain things, though good and pure, when mixed, produce discordant things. Yeah, poisonous things that men call evil things. So evil is the inharmonious blending of the colors, tones, or forms of good. Now, man is not all wise, and yet has will his own. He has the power, and he uses it to mix God's good things in a multitude of ways, and every day he makes discordant sounds and evil things. And every tone and form, be it of good or ill, becomes a living thing, a demon, sprite, or spirit of a good or vicious kind. Man makes his evil thus, and then becomes afraid of him and flees. His devil is emboldened, follows him away, and casts him into torturing fires. The devil and the burning fires are both the works of man, and none can put the fires out and dissipate the evil one, but man who made them both. Then Jesus stood aside, and not a magus answered him. And he departed from the throng and went into a secret place to pray. Chapter 39. Not trying to get too into it because I really like this chapter for where he says in verse 10, he says, he's talking about evil, and the question was how evil can be born of that which is all good. And I'm going to have to pray and reflect on this a little bit, but because I'm also going back to the first few verses where he's talking about the seven spirits. And to me, it kind of sounds like the planets, because they're talking about the sun and the moon, and then those two being superior to the others. But I could be wrong. Because he's talking about in the Persian books, they emphasize the two being more superior. So I believe that's what they're talking about. If you got something else from it, please leave it in the comments. Let me know. But yeah, okay. So verse 10, he says, we all recognize that evil is whatever is has a cause. It's law of causality. And if God, the one, made not this evil, then where is the God who did? And he goes on to pretty much say that we are who created this evil through our will, through our. God gave us free will. And so God gave us the abilities to, and not only the abilities, but the desires to create and mix and do things that are outside of what has already been. And he describes it in a sense of colors that are mixed, tones that are mixed, in a way that creates disharmony and it creates discordant tones. And so you've definitely heard that before. You hear maybe 2 or 3 orchestra instruments all playing at the same time, not in rhythm, as opposed to a beautiful symphony. And so we have the will and ability to create both of those things. And so he did start out this chapter giving praise to the people who do live in good, what is good in God's eyes. And now that all these things have been created, nothing can be taken. And although in verse 15 he says, now man is not all wise and yet has will his own, he has a power and he uses it. And it means too that even with this great power to create and add on and just bring more into this world through the gifts that you are given, we're still not all-knowing. We're not omni like God is, like sources, knowing how all of our creations will affect something else in this life. And that is part of what creates that disharmony. Not that we're doing it intentionally, although some people are. It's more of just us living and moving, and that is what causes these things to be real and in this life, and creating what he says, a living thing, a demon, a sprite, a spirit. We create all of those, but God also did, because God gave us the ability to do so. And that, to me, also, I didn't always believe, but I started to really reflect on how source is everything and God is everything, and we all come from that one, right? And because of that, it is intended for us to have evils here. And according to Jesus, evil is just disharmony. And we see that all the time. So we know what it looks like. And we also know what harmony looks like. So he just kind of dropped the mic on that and left. And we'll move on to chapter 40. Jesus teaches the Magians, explains the silence and how to enter it. Caspar extols the wisdom of Jesus. Jesus teaches in the groves of Cyrus. Now, in the early morning, Jesus came again to teach and heal. A light not comprehended shone about, as though some mighty spirit overshadowed him. A magus, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, noted this and asked him privately to tell from whence his wisdom came and what the meaning of the light. And Jesus said, "There is a silence where the soul may meet its God, and there the fount of wisdom is. And all who enter are immersed in light and filled with wisdom, love, and power." The magus said, "Tell me about this silence and this light, that I may go and there abide." And Jesus said, "The silence is not circumscribed, is not a place closed in with wall or rocky steeps, nor guarded by the sword of man. Men carry with them all the time the secret place where they might meet their God. It matters not where men abide, on mountaintop, in deepest vale, in marts of trade, or in the quiet home. They may at once, at any time, fling wide the door and find the silence, find the house of God. It is within the soul. One may not be so much disturbed by noise of business and the words and thoughts of men if he goes all alone into the valley of the mount or the mountain pass. And when life's heavy load is pressing hard, it is far better to go out and seek a quiet place to pray and meditate. The silence is the kingdom of the soul, which is not seen by human eyes. When in the silence, phantom forms may flit before the mind, and they are all subservient to the will. The master soul may speak, and they are gone. If you would find this silence of the soul, you must yourself prepare the way. None but the pure in heart may enter here. And you must lay aside all tenseness of the mind, all business cares, all fears, all doubts, and troubled thoughts. Your human will must be absorbed by the divine. Then you will come into a consciousness of holiness. You are in the holy place, and you will see upon a living shrine the candle of the Lord aflame. And when you see it burning there, look deep into the temple of your brain, and you will see it all aglow. In every part from head to foot are candles all in place, just waiting to be lighted by the flaming torch of love. And when you see the candles all aflame, just look, and you will see, with eyes of soul, the waters of the fount of wisdom rushing on, and you may drink and there abide. And then the curtains part, and you are in the holiest of all, where rests the ark of God, whose covering is the mercy seat. Fear not to lift the sacred board. The tables of the law are in the ark concealed. Take them and read them well, for they contain all precepts and commands that men will ever need. And in the ark, the magic wand of prophecy lies, waiting for your hand. It is the key to all the hidden meanings of the present, future, past. And then behold the manna there, the hidden bread of life, and he who eats shall never die. The cherubim have guarded well for every soul this treasure box, and whosoever will may enter in and find his own. Now Caspar heard the Hebrew master speak, and he exclaimed, "Behold, the wisdom of the gods has come to men." And Jesus went his way, and in the sacred groves of Cyrus, where the multitudes were met, he taught and healed the sick. Chapter 40. So, I, as a yogi, really love this chapter because Jesus is talking about the silence. And one of my favorite verses from the King James Bible is, "Be still and know that I am God," because that is one of my favorite verses to bring as a well-rounded wholeness of what yoga is, at least for me. And yoga was my opportunity to be by myself in solitude, but not only outwardly and externally in a space that I felt safe in, but to go inward and to feel what is happening, not only physically inside, not just listening to my heartbeat, not just hearing my breath, but going inward to where I find what he calls the silence. And when you find that silence within, your intuition is present, your deep connection with source is so much more clear, and you are given answers to questions that you may have had a while ago, but it pertains to your now, because source God is omni and knows and sees everything that we need as a whole and individually. And so for him to for him to connect with us, we need to get rid of those outside cares. He even mentions like get rid of the career cares, because there's so many things that are clouding our minds on a daily basis. There's so many things fighting for our attention on a daily basis. And when you finally find the time to be in stillness, and that doesn't mean necessarily, I mean, as much as I love, like practicing being in stillness and not moving the body, it doesn't always mean you have to be like, oh, I'm a statue. No, it just means like release the thoughts that are holding you down, release the things that don't pertain to this present moment, and just be here now without distractions. You don't need the music all the time. You don't need somebody else's opinion to confirm what you already know all the time. Sometimes God, source, is just there waiting to connect with you and give you the answer that you and only you are looking for. And that silence is a blessing. As he says in verse 10, the silence is the kingdom of the soul, which is not seen by human eyes. And he told him, this is how you can abide here. And you don't have to be anywhere specific to find that silence. You can be right where you are right now. You could be in the midst of chaos. You could be in the midst of, just the hardest loneliness. You could be in whatever it is that you deem a challenge for yourself is an opportunity to find that silence and to connect to the only one that really understands you fully and completely. So, yoga. And then he went on his way, and he continued to heal the sick. This chapter ended with talking about the ark and the rules and things being there, the magic wand of prophecy in the ark. And that's something I will definitely be rereading and reflecting on some more, because I know the Ark of the Covenant is something that has been sacred for a very long time. Couldn't even touch it in the Bible. It was where God was. It's where God was seated. It's where God, for those people at that time, that's where he laid and stayed, and you could not approach it unless you were of a certain purity, and even then. So he's saying that the wisdom is there, and the wisdom is in him. And yeah, so we'll close it out with chapter 41. And that will end this section of Jesus in Persia. Just drink some also real fast. Okay. You like my nails, y'all? It's my birthday this weekend. I'm just feeling glittery. My inner child is like, let's bring out the glitter. Can't really see it, but my nails are so short. But I do them. So I like them easy and simple. All right. Enough of that. Chapter 41. And Jesus stands by a healing fountain. It reveals the fact that faith is the potent factor in healing, and many are healed by faith. A little child teaches a great lesson of faith. A flowing spring that people called the healing fount was near Persepolis. And all the people thought that at a certain time of the year, their deity came down and gave a virtue to the waters of the fount, and then the sick who then would plunge into the fount and wash would be made whole. About the fount, a multitude of people were in waiting for the Holy One to come and potentize the waters of the fount. The blind, the lame, the deaf, the dumb, and those obsessed were there. And Jesus, standing in the midst of them, exclaimed, "Behold, the spring of life. These waters that will fail are honored. These waters that will fail are honored as the special blessing of your God. From whence do healing virtues come? Why is your God so partial with his gifts? Why does he bless the spring today and then tomorrow take his blessings all away? A deity of power could fill these waters full of healing virtue every day. Hear me, you sick, disconsolate. The virtue of this fount is not a special gift of God. Faith is the healing power of every drop of all the waters of this spring. He who believes with all his heart that he will be made whole by washing in this fount will be made whole when he has washed, and he may wash at any time. Let everyone who has this faith in God and in himself plunge in these waters now and wash." And many of the people plunged into the crystal fount, and they were healed. And then there was a rush, for all the people were inspired with faith, and each one strove to be among the first to wash, lest all the virtue be absorbed. And Jesus saw a little child, weak, faint, and helpless, sitting all alone beyond the surging crowd, and there was none to help her to the fount. And Jesus said, "My little one, why do you sit and wait? Why not arise and hasten to the fount and wash and be made well?" The child replied, "I need not haste. The blessings of my Father in the sky are measured not in tiny cups. They never fail. Their virtues are the same forevermore. When these whose faith is weak must haste to wash for fear their faith will fail, have all been cured, these waters will be just as powerful for me. Then I can go and stay a long, long time within the blessed waters of the spring." And Jesus said, "Behold, a master soul. She came to earth to teach to men the power of faith." And then he lifted up the child and said, "Why wait for anything? The very air we breathe is filled with balm of life. Breathe in this balm of life and faith and be made whole." The child breathed in the balm of life and faith, and she was well. The people marveled much at what they heard and saw. They said, "This man must surely be the God of health made flesh." And Jesus said, "The fount of life is not a little pool. It is as wide as are the spaces of the heavens. The waters of the fount are love. The potency is faith. And he who plunges deep into the living springs in living faith may wash away his guilt and be made whole and freed from sin." Chapter 41. Well, I'm just going to reread that last sentence and we're going to close it out, okay? Faith. Verse 24. The waters of the fount are love. The potency is faith. And they who plunge deep into the living waters, the living springs, in living faith, may wash away his guilt and be made whole and free from sin. Live in faith, y'all. Don't lose it. Whatever it is that you believe can become. And the more you hold on to faith, the more miracles you will see in your life. I am so grateful that you're here today. Please don't forget to subscribe if this is something that you vibe with. Feel free to check out my yoga videos that I just started posting if that is your jam and you want to find some of that silence in yourself. Yeah, yin yoga is great for the ability to practice finding that silence. And maybe you can, those practices are gratitude practices to help raise the frequency and the vibration of gratitude. But you can always, replace one of those affirmations with one of these verses that you feel called to meditate on for yourself. Yeah. Thank you for being here. And apologies for my inconsistencies of time and day, but I hope that you're able to rewatch this and reflect and have whatever revelations are meant for you at this time. And I send you all my love always, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. Peace.